Keep it big, keep it sexy, keep it plump. The slogan of your now upcoming label. What can we expect, and how is the philosophy of the label?
Yeah, so it's funny, we're going through the mission statement for the label and how we wanted to create it. And originally, I think I had a sound in mind with my partner. I run the label, own it with my fiance Hottrax, who's a visual artist and, in my opinion, a formidable activist. And so we had sort of a agenda that we wanted to advance, which I'll touch on, like subculturally within dance music. And then we also had a sound that we thought in the beginning, and we're still before the first release, so it's just a testament to how things change so much before the first record actually comes out. But we thought that I would be able to sit in interviews like this and characterize what the sound is. But as it turns out, it's in the mission statement now is that it's less about a sound and more about an ethos. And so, within dance music, I think there's some marginalized voices that we would like to center. So we consider ourselves feminist, queer positive, sex positive, anti-racist, and really want to help artists that sort of fit that mold, POC, et cetera, that maybe haven't had as much of a platform in the past. And those people alongside allies, of course, of the community. So it's an all-inclusive thing, but we're definitely focused on giving those people a voice that that historically I think were a part of the roots of dance music to begin with. Dance music started in queer culture and with people of color, and we definitely are interested in trying to give those people's, to amplify those voices. So Plump is about that. It's also fat positive. Interesting that I forgot to maybe that part of it. Being that's that part speaks to me for obvious reasons, and so it's become sort of even before the first release, a cathartic thing, for me and in my personal acceptance of myself, and then the music's got to be good in terms of people out there who want to submit demos, but I don't know that we're tied down to a genre anymore.
All right, so do you already have a release planned, and when can we expect the first release coming out?
Yeah, so first release is, I guess, less than 2 weeks away now. Yeah, that's right. So October 30th is the first release, and sorry, the second part of your question was?
Yeah, what can we expect? Is it your sound kind of, or does it go in a different direction?
Yeah, so it's definitely like it's called The Sound of Plump, and so it's a 4-track EP. Me with a vocalist friend that I grew up with called Baby Luck, which I've done work with in the past. If you look at my Discogs or whatever, and then me and my partner Hottrax on 2 records. That's the A1 and the A2. Sort of big, bombastic, ballsy, fraught with I won't say lewd, but we'll just say sexual innuendo. It's like feminist ghetto tech is the shorthand for it. And then sort of some stuff I've been dabbling in, which is more sort of lyrically driven, down-tempo-esque, tricky sort of glass of whiskey, barstool stuff. So it's a bit eclectic, but it's just to give people an idea of what the overall range of the project could be, the scope of the music on the label going forward.
All right. You are not you're not born and raised here in Berlin. Now you live here. You've been you grew up in the States. How did you get in touch with electronic music, and how was your start in this industry and scene?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I grew up in San Francisco primarily. I'm a Bay Area kid. I've lived over 20 years there, which is more than any other point anywhere else in my life. But my formative years were in Texas, high school and undergrad. So born in Kentucky, but it's sort of we got the hell out of there as soon as we could. I wish it would stop showing up on whatever Google search. to be honest, the blessed now, previously Black Madonna, the blessed Madonna is also from Kentucky, as I understand it. So I take some solace in that. Yeah, I bought a DJ Icy CD. I remember there was in Austin, Texas, where I'm from, home of the South by Southwest Music Festival. There was a place called A&R Records, and I picked up a DJ Icy CD at some point. And in college, we used to go to this one club out of a strip of like bars. Texas is rock and roll country, so it's at the time that I was coming up, that electronic music wasn't as vast, especially in the States, as it is now. So it was a niche thing to be going into this vinyl, primarily electronic music record store, A&R Records, and just picked up a breakbeat DJ Icy CD, which I think was, for a kid that came from hip hop, like the breaks were a bit more accessible, in terms of like understanding as an entree point into electronic music, and then it was buried for years, and I moved to San Francisco. I was doing indie rock stuff. I was a fan. I worked for South by Southwest for years, and just as part of like coursework and volunteered, etc. And and then we moved to San Francisco, and it's funny because there was an art gallery in San Francisco that used to go off at like 7 p.m. or you guys say 1900. So there'd be a line around the block, 400 people inside, packed dance floor, line around the block in the middle of the financial district, all these skyscrapers and banking buildings, etc. With a velvet rope outside that was playing electronic music. I think it was Jonathan Lyle was his name at that point, said that the energy inside that gallery was sort of like the hacienda. So I can remember, from back in the Manchester days or whatever, so I can remember standing in that gallery at 8 p.m. And feeling the energy like wash over me all over the walls in a packed room, and seeing a guy up there that was dropping beats and being like, this is beat-driven stuff. I can do this. I've always been a bit of a dancer and definitely a music collector. And then I just jumped in with both feet. The irony for me is I got my first pair of tables the year that I started law school. So for me, like I had this sort of like dueling trajectory. We say jack of all trades, master of none. So it's as long as I kept doing both, I never thought that I was going to do particularly well at either one. So a choice came at some point between being a lawyer and doing music, and we're here because music won out.
How was the decision? That particular decision. How did you decide, and what was the key thing that you the key thing why you decided for music? What was like the trigger for it?
Yeah, right. Catalyst, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's also weird to use that term because it was such a long process. It's like where in this, what I guess was like a 15-year process, did that happen? I had a couple of moments since coming to Berlin or whatever. There was a year, I guess maybe 2016 or something, where I wasn't doing both, where I was able to live just from music for a year, and then I went back and kept, freelancing, or just picking up assignments once in a while from my San Francisco law firm. And I got to the point where I could support myself with this, and I just feel like I'm better at it. And I know I'm better at it. I'm a much better DJ, vocalist, music producer than I ever was a lawyer. I was not the bomb in the law space. I did all right. I made it through, but I don't know if I would have hired me. But musically speaking, I would hire me. I don't know. I'm a firm believer. I have this. Maybe it's just this dreamy, naive thing, but that if everyone occupied a space in the world doing what they're best at, then all the slots, for employment and career opportunity would be filled. And I think, I believe that about garbage men and plumbing and all the rest of it. I mean, some people just have a knack for things and don't mind getting gritty and like to help other people in whatever capacity they can. So I really believe that I'm absolutely contributing into the world in the best way that I know how. And I think that a lot of energy, not to get like spiritual or existential about it, but a lot of energy comes from that, from just being in the pocket, doing things for the right, like on a cellular level, like law of attraction type stuff. Like it just all kind of comes from just like pounding the right thing and being confident about it.
talking about the law of attraction and decisions. You made the decision for music, and then you made the decision for Berlin. How did that come?
Yeah, that was an interesting one. My ex-wife actually, which is also a decision we could find the catalyst for. Yeah, it was I was approaching, getting older or whatever, and I think she only had so much time in her thoughts about me for me to quote unquote make this work. I've had a slow, lengthy ascending burn, but it's not been this like splash. It's been this just like, this year was better than the last. This year was better than the last. This year, I may have had 1 or 2 years that were like the same through this growth period. So I'm stoked about that. But I looked at her one day, and we chose an age that we thought that if I didn't make it by, I would return to law. This is when I was still trying to figure out both. And really a week later, I was like, well, I can see what my life is going to look like if I keep playing undergrounds in San Francisco. Like, I had a mentor that was 10 years older than me that put me on all the shows as a local in San Francisco, and I learned a lot from. And 10 years older than me, he was still, running around playing undergrounds for 300 euros a show. And you could do it every weekend, and you're always opening for other acts. And I could see the next 15 years of my life sort of treading the hamster wheel like that. And so I was just like, that's not. If I've got this 3-year deadline I'm setting for myself, then this is not the way that's going to happen. And I was like, I've got to go be a big fish in a big pond. What are those ponds? And to me, at the time, which was 2013, the primary markets for music, electronic music, the most prominent in the world were Berlin, Ibiza, and London. That's coming from the States. It still hadn't really hit in the States as it has now. And so I was like, I've got to put my life in a suitcase. So I pared down to 4 suitcases and boarded a plane and came. The interesting thing is I had just made that record, FCL, who I guess are German, but I don't know if they're from Berlin. I know they were playing Pana a lot at that time. Panorama Bar, Berghain. Had just released this remix of a track that I did with Audiojack, called Stay Glued, and the lyric is, my beat will control you. My beat will control you. I don't know if you guys remember that. But I had just released that record. I guess it had come out in January, and I was on a plane to Berlin under the circumstances I just described in May. And on the layover in London, I got a text on Facebook or Skype or whatever from Andre Krom, who was running a record label at that time called Off Recordings, where a lot of my friendships in the industry now come from. Sasha Robati and Krusen Nürnberg and Matt Joe. All those guys are all good buddies of mine, and all from there. And he texted me on the way off. He's like, "Are you here yet?" I was arriving in a country where I had my best friend was here. He works as a sommelier, so not in dance music, and I didn't really have any friends. I didn't know how I was going to get footing, and here I am getting an email, like on my layover with my luggage on the way in the move from Andre being like, "Are you here yet?" And when I landed, we went to dinner, and I sat down at a table, literally with the whole label, who was all of those guys. Leftwing and Cody was in there too. And we were off and running, and so again, that cellular level attraction stuff. It's like I took the leap of faith, and I happened to drop a record 5 months before getting here that was like a business card when I got here. They were like, "Oh, we know you did the record," and I was like, "Yeah, oh, come on, let's go," And I never had to. Anything that I was stressing about socially was those questions ended the moment I got off the plane.
So you had a very, very good start, like an immediate start. You landed here. You were in the scene right away.
Yeah.
And how did that, you said you're here for now 6 years, and how did that develop here, and the scene of electronic music, like tech house music here now in Germany, which is I would say like a techno country, techno primary.
Techno country.
And now compared to the US, because the US is not very big, like tech house is really going off there, and really like South America and stuff. And like we had this in different talks yesterday and today also, that tech house and house is not that big blooming now in Germany. What's your take on that?
On the relationship of tech house in Germany versus the States, or the state of tech house now in Germany, or yeah. I mean, that's the $1 million question for me for the 7 years plus now that I've been here. Like I said, it's techno country here in Berlin, and so I think that like I've been running outside of the quote unquote main system of that largest industry marketplace in the world thing that I described to some extent because of genre. But I think it's been helpful. It's a pretty interesting question to respond to because I waffle, as probably many artists do, but back and forth as to where it's best for me to be geographically set up. I think just because of who I am, I'll always be a bit of an anomaly. The way that I look, the way that I dance during shows, the type of energy that I bring, even though I'm subdued right now. Like when it's showtime, I could be kind of like Big Bear style. But so all of those things I think are unique in and of themselves and would be unique in the marketplace where tech house is more prominent, which is in the States, and are unique here in Berlin. It's hard to sort of be retrospective or to look in hindsight because I've been playing Catter, I guess, probably 5-6 times a year before Corona happened, and it had become my favorite, or is still my favorite place to play in the world. So is that a proximity thing? Is it because it's down the street from my house and I play it frequently, or is it an actual thing? I play all around the world, so I do have places to compare it to, and I definitely do, or at least the last shows that I played, play tech house, and it's well received. So I think that I found that section of the market in Berlin that exists, and probably am now helping, I think, on some level to define it, at least as it relates to Catter on the nights that I play, of course, that it can exist here, and it's great. I always think about funk, and I always wonder, how embraced funk is in the German community, how much beats like swag, because it's more of a linear doo-doo, so how much how much of that goes down, and it's part of who I am musically. And interestingly, I've been accepted, I think, even by those people who may not have tech house be their default, probably through authenticity and the energy that I bring to stages. And so I haven't really seen the effects of tech house not being that prominent here. And then there's just the functionality of it, which is that from here, it was easy to immigrate to here, and I can access Europe. I mean, London is 2 hours away on a plane. So easy to immigrate, and opens up the rest of Europe for me from a logistical standpoint. So yeah, genre doesn't really matter. Our label, I have a feeling, will appeal readily to the American market, but I also think it makes us pretty distinctive in the Berlin / German / European marketplace to be doing that from here. And from the artistic side of things, from the ethos side of things, my partner would tell you that in terms of first-class art culture across the globe, this is the place to be for that. And so I think that we can push the artistic ethos side of the label a hell of a lot more being here than without having to sort of, I won't say dumb it down, it's not the right word, but make it palatable for the American market. We can just be raw and punk rock here, and it just won't fucking matter, so.
Mm-hmm. So the geographical, I would say it. So the target group for the music, do you feel it's more like here in Berlin, or do you feel that it's like a global thing that will really get touch on in a lot of countries, or where do you focus on first when you like releasing your first records?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Berlin will get it. You know, I hope. I don't want to make assumptions about entire swaths of people or communities, but I do feel like Berlin has my back, to be honest, like in a musical sense, and I've got love for them and for the city for that. I think Berlin will get it. I know, or I suspect that America will get it. It's just my home country, and it's big ballsy stuff. Like oftentimes the music, and so it's just right in the pocket for what they like. And I've been surprised. I've always had a musical relationship through Hot Creations, etc. Sola music with the UK, and so I've seen just a lot of support from UK artists for our show Plumped. You know, we've got Mason Maynard coming. I've got another big artist from the UK that I can't announce yet that's here. And you know, we had El Rose, Teeny Gessler on just last night, and so you know, there's people that are stepping up from Europe that I've built relationships with that I think get us into all of those markets. So I see it as a global thing, kind of like a glitter box, you know, in terms of just wide open and everyone come as you are, and that being the vibe.
So you start this off as a label. Will it stay just a label, or will you start going into events and like expand the universe of Plump?
Yeah, I mean that's the plan. They call it 360, so it's label and merch and events and all the things. Come here and get all of your entertainment needs. So, you know, the truth is like when you look at the balance sheet, things need to be in the black. So I can speak into being. That's the aspiration, but don't hold me to it. We'll see where we're at next year.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Like, how was your last 7 months? Have you done a lot of live streaming? Have you tend a bit to law again, or how have you been into studio a lot? And you released some great tunes in the last months. What did you do while not playing?
Yeah, no, the studio is definitely on fire. Like, we're just making all sorts of stuff. I've just signed an EP to another major dancer. I guess I can announce it here. Yeah, so I just signed an EP right now to Repopulate Mars, which is Lee Foss, half of Hot Creations with Jamie Jones. Lee Foss's label, so I'm excited about that. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. I've been working on some sort of music projects that don't just feed like bookings in the dance floor, like some more sort of experimental, left fieldy stuff, which I'm excited to see where that goes. And then yeah, with all of the sort of the unrest in America, like the social unrest, etc. I've had some conversations and stuff with some label owners, and me and Barkley, who runs Dirtybird in America and California, talked quite a bit, and he ended up just offering me to drive Dirtybird for Saturday nights with this Plump thing. So the label is Plump, the show is Plumped 'D, and for the past 6 weeks, I guess. We've been streaming, so my living room, which used to be dope, is now essentially a television studio. So, like, you know, if you want to watch a movie on Sunday night, you've got to like tear down the decks and change the lighting. It's like club lighting in my living room at the moment. But yeah, and I've become versed in all these different forms of technology. What an opportunity! Also known as the state-of-the-art DJ plight for 2020 of like, oh, now learned how to video edit, and also, you know, what the bit rate for streaming and frames per second, like literally frames per second. I know I play music, I just said frames per second. So, you know, so it's a whole like all of that thing, and this will glitch in this one, what tech person, and what's the rate, aspect ratio, all these different things. And so so getting a handle on that. But ironically, I guess, when everything shut down, I had just bought a sound system to play at home and teach my partner to DJ a bit, and we just started streaming, and so I worked myself up to this position to win opportunity, again, this sort of a law of attraction, the cellular level thing, like when Claude gave me that opportunity, we were ready because we had been doing it for 4 months just out of the love for music and for wanting to stay in front of people. So when he's like, "Do you know how to do this?" The answer's like, "Yeah, we do." I don't know how else any other artist is doing anything to keep their soul alive without having figured out how to do this, because it's the only way that I could continue to share music.
In your opinion, how has the Corona thing changed the whole music industry? Like here in Germany, in America, all around the globe?
This is one of those light questions. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the permanence of streaming. I think that like when I look at my California buddies, the Desert Hearts Cats, and who have just been killing it on Twitch. It's a festival in the States, and if you guys don't know, you should. It's full of love and run by some great people. One of whom's an ex-professional BMX guy. I mean, there's just beautiful, beautiful folks. But they've been killing it on Twitch, and so I think the question for me, one of the most interesting things will be like, what is going to be the role of streaming going forward post-Corona? Because I don't think that it's going away. And so I think that may have some sort of lasting impact on the aesthetic of dance music overall, and perhaps what clubs are doing, and perhaps there's some sort of revenue stream associated with that, right? Like I can't go to Circo Loco at DC-10, but because the flights are expensive, or I've got a final tomorrow or whatever. But what I can do is log in for $10 and get the same experience or whatever. So I suspect that that's going to be monetized at some point and will be around. I unfortunately also expect that there's some people that are having to turn to other forms of employment, which is the sort of the state of many of us, but who also may not come back. So I think that there'll be, I guess they would call it a culling of the herd, so to speak. Like some people, just like, because I know that my personal passion has been tested. How bad do you want this? How hard are you willing to fight for it to stick around, and how large a part of it is for you? And if I didn't love it as much as I do, I couldn't guarantee that I would still be around or fight for it or stick around. So I think it's going to test a lot of people. Like you guys doing this event is a great example. I think like I'm sure that doing an event during Corona and whatever the size of the crowd is, whatever, all the different tests that you have. As you throw an event, you're doing it because you love it and you believe in it, right? And it's like, no matter what the state of the world is, you do it because this is who you are and you really believe that shit. So so that's, so I'm surviving in that space, but I don't know that all artists have that. And there's the reality of many of the venues that we've loved over the years being on the precipice of closing, and the lack of sort of government support. I mean, I can't speak. Berlin, generally speaking, in my opinion, compared to other places I've lived in the world, does a great job of supporting artists. But it seems like club culture globally, to me, is really hurting, obviously, by the lack of shows, but also through the lack of sort of government support. So I think that there's probably an activist void there that can be filled to help get some funding to keep things alive, because I don't know what's going to happen when the quote-unquote doors open up again.
Now diving back into your music, you supported a lot of tracks with your voice, and when did you realize you had a great voice?
All these, whoa, I knew my voice was dope when, I never, it's always like artfully dodging these, you gotta remain humble. And I think also like as an artist, like, the moment you think you're the dopest ever is the moment the growth stops. So I'm always arriving. I don't really know. I was a singer. I sang classically as read music and stuff competitively in high school. So I was a tenor then, which was several cigarettes ago. And so now I'm a baritone, and I think that works. It's kind of so I've always known. I knew through the competitions that I had a voice compared to other people based on where I would place. The thing about the voice goes, I think, a little bit with the stage presence. And, like in house music, there's a lot of large African-American female vocals. Like you think about classic house and like all that kind of you know, telling me like that. And then for me, there's also been always a space for you know, techno, like, welcome to the house. You want to get down with this techno. You feel that? Feel them hi-hats. Like all that kind of like, you know, like big black man voice, big black man voice stuff, which is sort of like being typecast, right? It's like an archetype. But for me, you know, in the beginning, I think that my access probably came from fitting a mold of people who'd come before me, love, bless, that had sort of created that pathway for me. But where it is altered with me is because of performing in show choirs and stuff when I was younger, like, you know, like musical theater. I just have a much different, I think, sense of stage presence than most. I don't know how much you guys have seen of, you know, when I do my thing, but I'm pretty active. And so, and it just comes from good old, like, what does it take? How big do you have to be on a stage in order to invite the crowd in with you? You know, you've got to accentuate your movements and do all these things. And I think that because many DJs come from a production background first, and I come from sort of a performance/stage performance background, that it just sort of creates, that it works with the voice and takes me to a different place than that sort of classic, you know, stereotypical vocal thing.
So as a small artist, you always want to release on like the big labels, on like the Dirtybird and on the Hot Creations. And how did you start getting in contact with those labels, and what experience can you tell smaller artists to really get in contact with those labels?
Yeah, to me, like, it's so funny because I always tell people that making it in, like, there's no roadmap. And it's back to the law school thing. It's like, okay, you go and you place here in your class, and, you know, you get an internship your second summer, or you clerk for this judge, and then you get out and you know, get a job at this law firm, and you put in your 2,000 hours, 2,000 billable hours a year, and you do that for 7 years, and then you make partner and all this stuff. So, like, in traditional careers, which is the path much more frequently traveled, there are these benchmarks along the way that if you meet them, they, in theory, get most people where you want to go. Here, that doesn't exist. So then I can only speak about my experience. It doesn't mean it's the only way that it happens. For me, networking and the way you conduct yourself socially with artists that are already there is everything. So, I mean, I've heard Seth, my buddy Seth Troxler, like, talk about accent, you know, like play it cool, be cool, don't be pushy, hang around, we'll see you, and at some point, you know, if you're cool or whatever, then people will start to warm up to you, and you'll start to get access that way. And I heard that as a younger artist, and that's exactly what I did. So a lot of these handshakes, a lot of these, like, for me, I cut my teeth in Detroit, going to Detroit Electronic Music Festival, and it was just, you know, it was relentless partying, and it was after hours, but it was never pushy, it was never what can you do for me, it was making friends. I mean, to the extent that, like, these people now who are in these positions that run the industry or tastemakers are, you know, this is my peer group, my circle of friends. Like, this is who they, like, genuine friendship. Like, I'm as interested in hanging out with these people, more interested actually in hanging out with them away from the club than I am in the club. And so, and then that club stuff is just a byproduct of the friendship now. And it's like legitimately. So, like, you know, with the Hot Creation stuff and Richy Ahmed and, you know, the drums record that I made, those guys are friends. And Audiojack, who was a gatekeeper for me, and who put me on, and is that My Beat Will Control You record, those guys are good friends, like, you know, like invited to my wedding friends. And and Matt Tolfree is the same. And so I think you've got to I guess they call that paying dues, you've got to put in your time, and be a good person. And I really, I mean, it's so cliche, but I mean, like, actually be that, not go out and, like, try to be that for a second, and as soon as you're 3 beers in, be like, so have you heard this? Like, no, like, don't ever, like, wait for somebody to ask you if you have anything to hear. Like, be there for, like, legitimate, like, you know, like contribution to the scene, to vibe, like just be vibe, and like literally, and then that stuff just kind of comes, you know, and when your time comes, your shit needs to be dope. I don't know. We haven't talked about cussing, so I've been trying not to. But you know, you got to be on point. But I don't know. Like to me, like truth is an aspect of talent. So if you know yourself well enough to conduct yourself, you know, for genuine reasons in those kinds of ways, and mean it, and it lands well with people, then I would suspect that you probably could do something in the talent space too. But you know, who knows?
During your career as a musician and as Kevin Knapp, you met a lot of people. What was the person who inspired you the most?
My partner hates hierarchy. She's like, that which I like about chocolate cake is not that I like about mac and cheese. How do I compare them? So I may hide behind that. Like, I don't know about the most. I have artists that I love just from a musical sense. I love Kotze. I love Robag. I love Jamie Jones. I love Troxler. I've really been into Michael Bibby a lot lately. I love Manilow Tuff. Loved Nicholas Jar, of course. So like stuff that's like swaggy and also has like, you know, like an intellectual element, right? Like ballsy, bouncy on the bottom while playing something discordant on the top. And it just like fills both. It's like, I call it ass on bottom, head on top. Like, you know, intellectual tickles the back of your neck and at the same time grabs your hips like, you know, like both those things at the same time. So artists that are doing that, yeah, and I would say that like, I guess still to this day, actually thinking about it now, but I think Claude Von Stroke has been a good model for me because I've known him since 2005, because, you know, he's doing what Mixmag claims is, you know, the biggest or best record label effort of the past decade, I think was what came out in 2019, and he's got a family, he's got 2 kids, you know, he's in his 40s somewhere, and is like making a respectable, not like wastoid style, like you know, like old man at the parties, hey, you know, like it's more of a, but you know, like he's contributing and doing, and has struck balance. I think for me, the artists that I'm most inspired by are those that have really figured out how to do it for the long term and do it in a balanced way, because I think for many of us, myself included, when you get into it, it's just, you know, but you can't stay at that clip. And so if you're going to be a lifer, it's more about choosing your battles and the ebb and flow of it all. So those are all people that I look up to.
Yeah, just jump over to our either or questions. Let's start. Berlin or San Francisco?
San Francisco. That's a food thing. I'm long-winded, so I'll be San Francisco, food and wine. That's why.
Perfect. Elton John or Prince?
Sorry, first artist?
Elton John or Prince?
This is not going to win me any friends either. Elton John.
David Bowie.
David Bowie, obviously. Yeah, I've had my struggles with Prince. I love what he did. You know, like I guess socioculturally. I don't love every song, but I do love some.
Vinyl or digital?
Vinyl for home collection of old indie rock records and jazz records, which has been a COVID thing for me. And I've got like a beastly jazz collection as well. It's great. It goes with the wine, the natural wine that I've been getting in Berlin. And then digital for performance, and nothing beats bouncing a track in the studio and taking it that night and playing it on stream or whatever. Like there's just a functionality there that can't be beat.
What do you like more, a remix, to make a remix, or a collaboration?
I'm a collaborative artist, and probably as evidenced by my willingness to talk here, get energy / synergy from being live in room with other people. So I would say collaboration.
Right. A cold beer or a cold Coke?
Colbert is what we call it. COLE bear in Texas.
Bear.
Colbert.
A cold beer. Nice.
Sweet. We come to the end now for this interview. Are there some people in the crowd who have a question?
Questions.
Q&A, I'm so nervous.
Is this on? Yeah. I want to jump back to when you were talking about the label. I know you said that you had like a plan, like you started off like a sound of how you wanted to characterize the label, but then that changed a bit, and the first release is gonna demonstrate the range. And it is interesting, being Berlin-based and being into tech house because Berlin is techno town. Do you think that being in Berlin will take you in that direction, or are you going to try and fight against that current, and keep it more tech house?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I try to give the answer first, and then the color commentary second. So I don't know anything but funk really. So I don't think it's going to be possible for what I consider to be a bit more linear, at least rhythmically, music to come out of me. So I don't really think that's a real big concern. I do think I play maybe a little darker and a little faster being in Berlin. I don't think that necessarily that I produce more in that way. I do remember my buddy Sasha Abadi, who I mentioned before here, who was also a Dirtybird artist as I am, swimming upstream, it's a nice way to put it, here for years. And I saw the difference for him when he moved somewhere else, with a market that was more accepting of it. And so I sometimes think about that, but I don't see it changing. I don't think that the presence of me and Plumped in Berlin is going to overtake the vast techno enterprise. But I do think that we can increase enjoyment and knowledge and appreciation for this genre here, and I think that can be enough. So I don't really see I don't see a rub there per se. I think we can do tech house and we can do it here, and I think people will like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more questions? All right.
Then thank you
One
for.
more question.
Okay.
I've asked all the artists this. These guys are probably so tired of me asking this question. What's the best way to get demos to you and your label?
Yeah. So right now, the first 3 releases are all 2 months apart, and so we're thinking that it's going to be April until we can release another artist, and we think going to a monthly format at that point, because we want to be able to release both my music and the music of other people. So they can email me at promonap@gmail.com. That's my general promo email until we set up an official Plump Records demo submission. But like many of the major labels right now, if I were to get something that was fire tomorrow, it would be April before I could bring it to market, we think. So it's going to be a minute, but yeah, it'll work. Yeah. Promonap at Knapp, they say in Germany, at gmail.com.
Knapp@gmail.com. Got it. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you for your insights into your personality and your music and career
Journey.
and your journey.
Hope we see us next year.
Hope we see us next year. Okay, that was the mic.
I guess it's really over.
That's it. And you need to turn it on again.
Maybe it's not.
Jetzt.
Hello? Yeah.
Jetzt.
What's your opinion on having a management, and at what point do you consider that to be something necessary as an artist?
Well, I'm in love with my current manager, who's one of my friends that broke me into the industry. So that's Matt Tolfrey, who's just like fantastic and insanely hands-on. And because of our friendship, like I said, he's been to my previous wedding, and I'd been to his. Like, so that kind of friendship, and because he was an artist, he really knows the weight of these decisions that we have to make on a daily basis. I'm also able to cover more ground and be more effective in every decision, including sort of being involved in this event, like, things like that. We run them through the sieve, the system, and make decisions about how we're going to approach these types of things. And it's good to have a second opinion in those spaces. So I think it's great. And when I say cover more ground, between like agencies and PR, and social media, and like people that are helping with that, and my assistant, and all these different things, like, that's just the management piece is the primary piece that helps, that drives the rest of it. So, and I've been with a couple other managers, and they were all the right place at the right time. I can say that I'm happiest with the manager I'm with now. They also approach you as the other thing, so I don't know how much you need to, in my experience, worry about planning out and going to seek. I think just like with agents, the golden rule has kind of always been, as it's been expressed to me, is those that come to you with interest are the ones that are really going to fight and work for you. So, and I have had some situations that I've talked my way into at 3 a.m, like, yeah, let's do it. And you spend a year living those things out, and those people, in my opinion, generally just don't fight quite as hard for you as the people that say, like, hey, I think you've got something, let me go out here and fight for the both of us. So it's good. It can also, be challenging, just like any other parts of the career. But if you find someone that, and that's the other thing, is it doesn't have to be somebody with a big name. Just, it really, like in the agency thing is the same thing. It's if they're willing to fight for you. Like, I'd rather be at a small agency with an agent that really cared, that was going to pick up the phone every time, that really was going to go out and get done what we wanted, than to be at a big name agency where you're on the bottom rung. And that's just speaking from personal experience. So management is good if you can get to one that wants you, and generally speaking, that comes to you first, in my opinion.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.